Hey everybody, welcome into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for Snap Judgments on a Tuesday after Media Day with the Buckeyes. It was Ryan Day, Tim Walton, and the ultimate X Factor, Mitch Rossi. We're going to break down that hour and 15 minutes as the Buckeyes get ready to beat our
what?
I don't know. That's their name. That's Rutgers, I think, or Rutger. Maybe it should be R squared.
Beat a Rutger.
Beater. It's a license plate. That's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham, and I'm Austin Ward. There's probably a lot more interesting things to talk about than that picture up there.
I think we should spend 10 more minutes.
Okay, well, we can, but That'll be the podcast daily tomorrow. What actual takeaways do you have from... You can start with Mitch Rossi if you want, or you can go with the head coach.
We need to start with the Buckeye Health Hour. And
Okay.
who's going to play?
Here we go.
Who's not going to play this week? Sounds like they're expecting Cameron Brown and Denzel Burke to play. Lathan Ransom to play. Jackson Smith and Jigba, probably not. That seemed like a little bit of a sober outlook on things from Ryan Day, from my perspective.
I think that was the most insightful and revealing that he's been about the Jackson Smith and Jigba injury. And we'll start with what we were wondering about Bill and Berm as well. Like, do they have regrets about the decision that they made for Toledo? And that answer was no. And that included the training staff, that included Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, this collective group, and Jackson Smith and Jigba himself. If he thought that he wasn't able to play or that he didn't want to play, he would not have against Toledo. And that's not to say that any one of them deserves blame or anything else. They made a decision, and it didn't work. And everything they had been seeing and evaluating based on what I was told said that Jackson Smith and Jigba was going to be good to go, and he felt ready to go. Once you get out there in the game speed, that's a little bit different, and it didn't work. I don't expect that he's going to play against Rutgers. Ohio State's not ready to rule out a potential return against Michigan State. As I sit here right now, I'd say that's probably not the best idea if you have the off date after that, and all of the toughest games for Ohio State are in the second half of the schedule.
See, it feels like semantics, and I'm going to argue that I can't say it's not the best idea. Like, if Jackson's healthy and he thinks he's ready to go, then go. I mean, this is a kid who literally has millions of dollars in his future. He is not going to go out there and play against Toledo if he doesn't think he was ready to play. And ultimately, there's a list of 10 or 11 people who have insight or input into the decision. But much like we saw on Saturday night with Denzel Burke, like if he doesn't feel it, he's not going to go out there and play. And football's a weird game because, when you're on the field, like, other people are trying to hurt you. And they're actually, like, trying to damage your body, right? So, like, you can feel good in warm-ups when no one's actively trying to kill you, but then you get on the field and people actually don't take it easy on you because, like, oh, he's a little bit dinged up. No, they want you out of the game. So I don't blame anyone for him playing against Toledo. I think that he clearly felt he was ready to go. If Jackson thinks he's ready to go on Saturday, maybe he'll play, but I don't think that I think they'll be more reluctant to say, hey, you know what? We don't even need you this week, so let's get ready for Michigan State. I don't think anyone wants this to be a situation where you go now 6 games into the season and you haven't had him play. I don't think that's good for anyone.
The exact phrasing was Ohio State's not going to put a timetable on it, which I think is why Bill is saying it seemed pessimistic. And then, washed that down the spoonful of sugar with, this will be behind us soon. He said that several times. So it's like, It's not, I guess the reason I'd say it's more optimistic than pessimistic is there are people that have asked and are concerned, is this a Nick Bosa situation? Is Jackson Smith and Jigba going to shut it down? Is he going to miss the rest of the year? Does he need surgery? That's no to all those things, but probably not going to see him until after the off date.
I think that's fine if they don't. I sort of disagree with Berm.
Contention.
I love it.
Well, I understand that you need to take feedback from the players, and if everything tests out right and the player says, you know what, I feel good, I want to give this a go, you can still say no, especially with a guy like Jackson who's so important to them. And it did seem like he re-aggravated something or did himself a disservice by playing against Toledo, and that didn't have to happen. They didn't need him to play in that game.
But they thought they'd need him against Wisconsin. And so the goal was, if he says he's good to go against Toledo, we got to get him 15, 20 snaps to get the rust off so he's ready for Wisconsin. Now, ultimately, they didn't need him against Wisconsin. So how
right. And you can't forecast that too, but we're not talking about a guy who doesn't have a body of work. he could have practiced the week up to Wisconsin and I think been just fine in that game.
I thought he wasn't allowed to practice.
No, he's definitely
that's
not
true.
allowed.
I guess in Berm's world, he has to play because he can't practice.
Cannot practice.
Yeah. So I guess the two things that don't really connect for me are, like, today Ryan Day seemed like we're not going to push this. Yet it seemed like they pushed it. Like,
right.
And I sense some regret, even if he did not right say it. I think maybe their words and actions suggest that they have something. That they don't
I totally agree. There's regret. I just don't know that there's a regret that people need to be personally culpable for. Like, I think it's just a situation. Hamstrings are very fickle strings. You know, of all the strings, hamstrings are known for their fickleness.
Well, I think it's heartstrings that are most known for that, Berm.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, just a little melancholy Tuesday, Snappy J.
Who broke your heart?
I like Snappy J's.
Jordan Hancock also has a hamstring injury. He is not going to play on Saturday. That seemed very clear. I don't know when he's going to be back. Ryan Day finally started revealing more that was a more serious hamstring setback. I don't know what the grades are, what the tears are. Again, America, I'm definitely not a doctor. But I'm trying my best to learn.
And we don't know that it was a torn hamstring. We should assume, I guess, since he's missed 2.5 months at this point.
Yeah, I guess I should be more cautious.
I like
with
that he keeps showing up in uniform.
Yeah,
though. Like, I mean,
he wants to be part of it. That's important. We also know that Lathan Ransom was dinged up on Saturday night, which is why he didn't play. Never put his helmet on. He was available in an emergency situation, and the reason that Cameron Martinez only played, I believe, 2 snaps was also because he's dealing with a minor lower leg injury as well. So that secondary, not just at cornerback, continuing to deal with a lot of injuries, and that's also why you saw Sonny Styles getting an opportunity, which I think caught a lot of people's attention on Saturday.
I don't feel like Tim Walton talked, and I guess was asked directly sort of what we were talking about the other days. Did Sonny play because Lathan was hurt, or did Sonny play because Sonny earned it? I don't feel like I got a clear answer on that. Like, but I felt like you guys thought it was more because Lathan wasn't available. Do you feel stronger in that opinion today than you did a couple days ago?
I think that opportunity presented itself because both Cameron Martinez and Lathan Ransom were not at 100%. So when I was doing the math and then looking about who was it, they really had nowhere else to turn except for Sonny Styles, because there just seems to be something lingering with Court Williams as well. He did play, came in the second half against Wisconsin, but there doesn't seem to be the full confidence that he would have been at this point fully capable of going out there in a meaningful situation early on. So, I don't know. It's been patchwork. He's never appeared on the availability report, which Ohio State is also trying to adjust the way that they do that so that we get valuable information out of it. But I feel like the totality of injuries or less than 100% numbers in the secondary are why we saw Sonny Styles, but that you still have to show that you can do it on the practice field.
Yeah, he still, I don't mean to take it away from him. I think he did earn it. Like, they could have put a 4th linebacker out there if they wanted to in those situations. So it's a combination of both, but I think it is more maybe the injury stuff.
Sonny has so much natural ability and so much upside that in a game like that, when they were only putting him in the game when Josh Proctor was out of the game. So it's not like they had to play him. It was, let's rotate him in because Josh was out there, Ronnie was out there, Tanner was out there. You had your starting 3, but it's like, hey, let's see what he can do. And because he has earned it, because he is, like, in a room full of freaks, like Sonny Styles is a freak, right? Like a freaky freak. And he's...
What is he?
I think the best thing that happened to Sonny Styles on Saturday was that he got yanked out of the game for a stupid personal foul penalty. I think those are the moments that are going to be much more beneficial for Sonny down the road than, playing in the first series of the game against Wisconsin. To me, you're learning how to play with emotion and control yourself on the field, and that personal foul penalty was of the super stupid variety. Yeah. Like, it was not necessary at all. And I think that that's the kind of thing that has a lasting impact on him. But clearly he's making an impact on the coaching staff during the week because, and this is the second time we've heard this said. Today, Tim Walton said it, and a few weeks ago, prior to the start of the season, Perry Eliano said it. Sonny does not make the same mistake twice. And I think that that's the type of thing that if you look for a separator between a player versus another player, that sort of mental acuity, that sort of mental toughness is the difference. Now, if you're talking the difference between Sonny Styles and Court Williams, for example, Sonny Styles' length makes him a much more feasible player to cover tight ends, to cover running backs to cover wide receivers. And that's where Bill and I talked about this on the Podcast Daily Monday rewatch of the Toledo game. Like, I think at some point the obvious answer here is that Court Williams has to play linebacker. And that's not what we're here to talk about today, but it's just a side note of when you look at these safeties, there's a lot of really good ones. And I just don't see how Court fits into that mix, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, I guess the other reason that I say that, Bill, is that like Caden Curry has also caught enough attention of the coaching staff to warrant and earned it in late snaps. And we didn't see him out there earlier because the defensive line was healthy. And I know it's not like for like. They have different position coaches, but
well, they also have other guys like Javonte Jean-Baptiste and Tyler Friday who are upperclassmen who are playing. If Lathan was healthy, he would have
of
played.
course. To
go back to your original point, I think if Sonny would not have played in the first series of the game if Lathan was
available. Yeah.
I don't think.
But maybe we're wrong.
No, I think that's right. I just didn't think of that one. I guess I was so excited to see Sonny run out of the field that I didn't think of all the circumstances that led to it.
We didn't know if Lathan wasn't available.
Some of it we didn't know until much later.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get a better feel for that as Ohio State adjusts the status report moving forward. We'll see exactly how that goes. It's not going to matter against R. It may not even matter against M.
Should we talk about R?
So I was trying to count. I wanted to know how long it was going to take before somebody actually said the word Rutgers during the hour and 15-minute media session. And should I count one mention of Greg Schiano?
I think it was roughly 42 minutes or something like that until someone said Rutgers.
Yeah. So, but if I'm not counting that, I don't believe that anyone said Rutgers until Mitch Rossi was asked about them.
I think that's right.
Both coaches did not get a single question about what Rutgers does well or doesn't do well, which seems about right to me because they're terrible.
I mean, that happens a lot when we're in that room. We do not talk about the opponent unless they're playing Michigan. I think it's probably the only time.
Yeah.
Penn State maybe. We did with Notre Dame, but 90% of the games we did not say the opponent.
We are super focused on Ohio State football.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what they say?
Rightfully so.
You have to go into Tuesday and Wednesdays are the most difficult days of the week, and you can only measure yourself against yourself. Who cares about R?
I actually believe, and if we're going to talk about Rutgers for a moment, I actually think if Gavin Wimsatt is playing on Saturday, and this is something Bill talked about on this morning's Podcast Daily, I think that there is an opportunity to learn something about the Ohio State defense on Saturday because, and Wimsatt's a game time decision, I think, at this point. So is Noah Vidral, the other quarterback. So, you don't know who you're going to face at quarterback, and I think that there is an opportunity for Ohio State to have to scheme a little different and learn a little bit about some guys on Saturday, especially when you're talking about what Daquan Finn and Toledo did against. I'm sure Greg Schiano watched that game, and if Gavin Wimsatt is healthy, you're going to see that sort of be a staple of their game plan. And if there's one thing Rutgers can do offensively, it's run the ball. And I think that that's actually an interesting conversation. Probably not for Tuesday, but as we get to the end of the week, I think that's one of those things to look at.
You missed a golden opportunity to do something that you wanted to do, which was make up a name of a player in some situation. And I would have totally believed it. If you had said that Johnny Mnemonic was the quarterback at Rutgers, I'm like, yeah, that Johnny Mnemonic. I remember him in the recruiting process. He's
got a host.
He's got a dual threat and a really vivid imagination. That's how I feel about him. Anyway, what else struck your fancy, Bill?
Some offensive line talk. Thought that was pretty good. I really wish we could have talked to Justin Fry this week. Maybe he doesn't want to gloat just yet about how well the offensive line is playing. But one of the things Ryan Day said multiple times on Tuesday was about how the offensive line was just much better targeted in the run game than I think it has been probably going back at least a full year now. And that's not a thing we talked about in the offseason. We talked a lot about scheme and physicality, but I think there was probably something missing from a technical standpoint with a lot of the zone runs that Ohio State likes to do that Justin Fry has seemed to really tap into. And I think maybe Berman and I discussed this a little bit when we did the rewatch on Monday, but that was one of the cleaner performances I've seen from an offensive line running the ball, at least through the first half and probably most of the third quarter of that game. Just every defender was accounted for, every offensive lineman seemed like he knew where he was going. Really good stuff on the second level, and that's what you want to see out of this offensive line. I wasn't so sure that they'd be at this point, by this point in the season, only 4 games in, but I think they're probably a little bit ahead of schedule based off what I saw in that game.
Berm, what about you?
I'm just sort of fascinated by the Tim Walton experience, to be honest. I mean, I asked him about what it's like to come from the NFL after 15 years to walk into Ohio State. And ironically, the fact that he has a 6-man cornerback room in Ohio State is probably something he's familiar with and comfortable with. Mm-hmm. So it may not be as big of an issue for him as it would be a coach who's only been wow, a coach who's only been in college for the last decade or so. So I think he's actually fine managing those numbers and feels okay about it, especially because he mentioned Cam Martinez a couple times, Tanner McAllister as guys who could help out. But to go from the NFL to then having 6 scholarship players, 5 of them are sophomores or freshmen, only 2 have played any football before this year at Ohio State. I think it's a really interesting dynamic in that room. And Ryan Day was quick to praise him a couple times today, saying, hey, he really did a great job getting them ready, because Ohio State had no idea that they were going to be without Cam Brown and Denzel Burke, or even potentially Denzel Burke, until Thursday of last week. So it sort of felt like a potentially a mine in the battlefield on Saturday, but they did a nice job navigating around it. I don't know that we got a lot of answers out of Tim Walton about exactly how he did that. But again, you sort of learn
day by day.
It's kind of a neat dynamic that he's in there talking about his first career start at Ohio State back in 1993 when John Cooper was coach, and John Cooper's in the room listening to him talk. I thought that was kind of cool, just as me being like a Buckeye, like someone who grew up around this or thinking about this culture. So I'm interested to see where they go, because I really believe, in a weird way, that starting Jair Brown and J.K. Johnson out of need has an opportunity or a potential to change the culture of the entire cornerback room in a way that I don't think anyone would have thought those guys would have had that opportunity to be that instrumental. Because Denzel Burke, we don't need to keep talking about the struggles he's had, but if you're a guy who's not playing up to your potential, and you see 2 guys who haven't played, who both Ryan Day and Tim Walton said are getting more snaps in practice than anybody. So clearly Denzel Burke hasn't been practicing as much as those guys have.
And Cam didn't practice last week. So.
Right, and I'm sure he takes a lot of reps off because he doesn't have to play as much as the other guys. Jordan Hancock hasn't been able to practice in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, if you're Denzel Burke, aren't you starting going, there's an opportunity for that assumed starting position to sort of not be there. And I actually think that it's an interesting dynamic in this team that we really couldn't have anticipated.
Right. Also, the Fairway fullback merchandise coming very soon. Check that out from Mitch Rossi, the fullback. I
love it.
It was very exciting to hear a lot of I formation. I know that got Bill's attention for sure.
Yeah, man, like positions like that make football fun, I think. And like when Ohio State lines up with 5 receivers and chucks around the yard, like that's very fun too. I understand that, but there's something about that position and the way you can use it. And
do you wonder if Ohio State offensive linemen like having someone like Mitch Rossi?
You like having a fullback, Paris?
I do.
Yeah.
That's confirmation from the deep voice Paris Johnson back there.
That's what we're doing here. We're just getting straight to the heart of the matter.
Yeah, it's cool to see, and I know that Mitch has been waiting for this for a while, and as he answered to one of your questions, wasn't so sure what ever happened for him. Understandably so in this offense, but it's been great to see.
Yeah, I mean, I was skeptical for him. Kevin Wilson said it was 2 years ago. He said, you can be an NFL fullback, and it would kind of be like, how? Not here. It doesn't exist here. Nobody will even say it. I love the semantics of what to call the position, and he was not happy with Zach Boren's comments on Thursday night of last week that Mitch said, you want to call me a fullback? I'm a fullback. He's a ball player.
I think it's great. If people out there, America, listen.
Oh.
If you're wondering if the Ohio State coaching staff is good at their job, if they're persuasive individuals, if they're people who can affect change in a young man's heart.
Heartstrings, baby.
A year and a half ago, Kevin Wilson told Cade Stover, look, man, you can be an NFL tight end. You just got to believe. And he told Mitch Rossi, hey, man, you can be an NFL tight end. You just got to stay here and not ever touch the ball. And those guys are like, you know what? You son of a bitch, I'm in. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's really great. And it, but he was clearly right on both instances. And that's, you get some validation, and now it makes it easier down the road to tell other guys, hey, this is the path. This is the way. And I really think it's cool just to see it all unfold. Mitch has every opportunity to have moved on from here. Graduated, could have been anywhere else as a scholarship player. He talked about fullback rotation at Wisconsin and how he envied that. It's cool. And then you see him in the offseason, like him and Noah Ruggles, seeing like who can be the most laid back dude. And like, I think it's great because he's still out there cracking heads on Saturday nights.
Well, you must believe if you wish to achieve.
True.
That's right.
You've always said that on Snap Judgments, and you've heard it here first. That's the Snap Judgments original on the podcast. That's when Berm starts dropping profanity. It's time to end Snappy J's. I'm sorry for any kids who are watching, but you've probably already heard that word before, right? Berm's not the first time.
Never know.
Never know. Oh, that's Bill. Berm, I'm Austin. Thanks for joining us for Snap Judgments on the podcast. Back again with the Daily tomorrow, Wednesday morning, and then some more Buckeyes talking on Wednesday night, and we'll have that covered as well for you, as always, on the podcast and at Rivals as part of Dotting the I's part of the Rivals Network. You can get 30 days free there with the code DTE30. Come hang out with us. Bye.